Welcome to my first stock valuation, and the company that I will be evaluating today is IBI Group, which is a engineering company that I will describe in detail later on. So just before we get started, I just want to put out a little disclaimer. This is just for educational purposes only, and it's not professional financial advice. And feel free to leave any feedback you have of this valuation down below. So here's just kind of the overview of how we will go through this valuation. I'll start off with company overview and make our way all the way down to recommendation. So just a little overview of IBI Group. So IBI Group is a Canadian-based architecture, engineering, and urban planning and design firm. So they have an international presence with most of their revenue coming from Canada and the US, with the US revenue making up 28%, which is quite significant, and more importantly, they're well established to leverage any government infrastructure bills that come forward, which I'll talk about later on. So just a overall description of their experienced executive team, I think two of the notable figures would be David Tom and Scott Stewart. They're very experienced and have shown great leadership and strength over the years throughout crises that IBI has encountered. So their key services are highlighted here, and we're just going to go more into depth of them in a second, but with architecture, engineering, and urban planning being the most significant. So here's just a continuation of a company overview. So key items to understand in the review of IBI. So they built a lot of their early on growth through acquisition of small engineering and architecture firms in the last 10 plus years, and allowed the smaller firms to keep their brands and systems, which led to a lot of cross-selling, CRM, and management issues. So as you see here, the dividend stopped right here and but this was due to when debt became very overwhelming in March 1st of 2013. So that's one of the reasons why the dividend stops and was never reintroduced. And you can see the market reaction on the 10-year price chart above. So you can also see the work has been done to dramatically improve paying down the debt since the event. The consistent pay down and restructuring of debt is one of the driving forces in the resurgence of IBI. I mean, you can see here all throughout these graphs about the debt that over time they've made significant progress to reduce that debt, showing confidence for investors within the leadership team. So for their key strategies, we're going to go more into depth about this in a second, but just an overview of their main differentiation strategies. It would be technology integration and extension, CRM systems, software as a service thinking, and reoccurring revenue. So as I said here, we have their key strategies. And while IBI is growing into new market strategies, their fundamental organization is put mainly into these three buckets of intelligence, buildings, and infrastructure. So all of the new strategies involve integration of professional services across these three buckets. And for a long time, there was not a large effort to drive single corporate platforms, which has now changed, and they are now beginning to reap the benefits of the synergy across units. So here's, like I said before, a lot of their early growth was due to acquisition of smaller engineering and urban planning companies. So you can see here in the past 2 years, these are some of their main companies they have acquired. So what they do with their strategy of when they acquire these smaller companies, it's usually in industries that they want to expand into. So for example, in May of 2018, they acquired Green Owl. So this was to help it with streetscape inventory and asset management. So while small dollar-wise, it looks like a good addition and can be used for a bunch of their transportation clients. So it's basically where they want to expand into and innovate into. And then, for example, in 2019, Asper Engineering was also acquired to enhance their digital offering, specifically in information communication technologies and smart buildings area. So as mentioned, they are developing reoccurring revenue SaaS products, and this was strategic in this area, and that's what they've done with these past ones. So here's just an overview of IBI. So this screenshot was taken May 25th. It has gone up. I think it's sitting at about 10.25 right now. And they've had a really strong year so far in terms of their first quarter results of 2021. And that helped them break the $10 barrier that they were just sitting just below for quite a while. And I mean, you can see here at about March, when the stock market dropped, like March 13th, they were sitting at about $4.33, and now they're at $10.25. So just an industry outlook we're going to go into next. So, I mean, you can see here, digital disruption engineering, there are a few categories. So one of the great things that IBI has done is they have really been innovators in this industry, and they have been the driving force to creation and innovation in engineering and digital disruption. So IBI has already started the move to integrate digital disruption a number of years ago. They've dedicated new leadership to this area. They've acquired startups to leverage current and projected offerings, and they've also made planning for integration of digital disruption into projects to add future and proof value. So it should be noted that this was put into place in advance of a lot of the trend recognition report, for example, Deloitte's trend recognition report, just showing how they're always ahead of the game. And one thing I want to note is one of the industry drivers has been the Biden administration. So Biden is looking to put into an infrastructure plan, and with a focus with green energy and climate change. So this is likely to be passed within the 3 to 6 months and will have a massive impact on this industry. And because we do have, like I said earlier, like IBI has 28% of a US revenue share, this bill will have a significant impact on how they operate and just the overall industry. And we'll likely see the effects of the shovel-ready projects in 3 to 6 months, and then the projects that take a little longer, it will take impact into 2022 earliest. So here's just another little industry outlook. I mean, you can see here some of the top companies and COVID-19 effects. So like I said earlier, it was trading at about $4.33, and now we're at about $10.25. And one thing I also want to note is that new business models and an increase in M&A activity are further accelerating the shift towards digital transformation in engineering and construction, as well as operational efficiencies. Also, engineering and construction companies are likely to help other industries unlock the future of workplace solutions. Now we're just going to go into our investment thesis. So on May 10, 2018, IBI announced a new strategy that mapped out a transition to a technology-driven firm. The intelligence unit has most of their new disruptive technologies and is being used to cross-sell into the clients involved in other professional services group. So with the transformation to digital disruption technologies, it has allowed them to cross-sell into these sectors that you couldn't reach before. So they're helping companies, I'll talk about this later on, but helping companies manage their expenses, have more data analysis on everything. So they've really just expanded and innovated. And it was pointed out through an analysis question on the last investor call that a cross-sell across divisions is around 28%. Key metric can be used to track and report the progress on integration and cross-sell across divisions, which will drive increased EBITDA. So like I said earlier, they've really innovated into cross-sell into different services and industries that they couldn't reach before. So for example, we have the Smart City platform. So this is basically a system that provides driven data analytics focused on improving outcomes and services for city residents. And next we have Blue IQ, which is a real-time energy management solution that assists with the control of water pumps and reduces system-wide energy costs and lower greenhouse gas emissions. Next, we have Inform. This is basically just an asset management product designed to help clients manage assets and make informed maintenance and planning decisions to reduce operational costs. Travel IQ is essentially just to help travelers and provide a convenient source of information for users to seamlessly plan their travel. Next, we have the fundamental drive synergy. So some of the three key things that we need to grow shareholder equity for IBI Group is to see that they are making improvements in the following areas. So CRM, they need integrated views and reports across all units and subsidiaries. This will drive ability to identify financial and business development issues and consistent metrics. Next, accounts payable. So reducing this metric has shown dramatic effect in both focus to structural changes and agreements, and it's very important to keep this up. Next is debt reduction. So since the almost folding debt in 2013, they've made consistent and impressive steps to reduce this metric. Ongoing in revenue has driven down WACC for the debt, and in Q4 of 2020, they crossed a critical milestone in that the debt-to-equity ratio went below 1. Valuation. So we can see here, I think some of the key takeaways would be the crossing that debt equilibrium in Q4 of 2020, and just their year one performance breakthrough. They've made a lot of progress on their revenue. Catalysts and risks. So, we can look at internal and external risks. Some are quite similar and almost the same. So, continue focus on driving down accounts payable. Like I said, if they do not continue this, investors will not have as much confidence with the executive team, and that will just be an issue overall. So, next is, like I said, debt. If they do not continue to pay down this debt, this will provide a lot of issues, and this, although they have shown dramatic progress over the past few years, it is still below industry averages, so continued focus is needed. Internal pushback to cross-sell. So a lot of the time, it's super hard to change the structure and culture of a firm. So as they are innovating and creating new products, it's a lot of the time very hard to implement this if they have this strong workplace culture. So we need incentives to improve this. Next, external risks. So we have the US-Canada economic rebound. So although so far with vaccine rollout increasing, it's showing a lot of progress, there are some potential risks, such as what if the variants increase and we have to do another lockdown? How will this affect the overall industry? Like I said before, COVID-19 ongoing delay. So if maybe vaccine rollout is slower in some of their certain countries that they're in and they don't have a stronger presence, that will be an issue. And then internal pushback to cross-sell. So this is just the same as before, just changing that culture of the firm. In terms of catalysts, so one of the catalysts we have is technology cross-sell. So continued technology cross-sell into other business units is essential for growth, and it has shown a lot of near-term and longer-term positive effects on new client acquisition and higher contract values. So next we have operational continuous improvements. So just continued focus on CRM system rollout, integration across stilettos, accounts payable, and cross-training for products will improve synergy and returns. And then next we have infrastructure. So I talked about this earlier. So the implementation of a multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure bill will have dramatic effects and will be a major catalyst, both short-term and long-term, for IBI. Next, in terms of longer-term catalysts, we have smart city concept expansion. So just the integration of certain technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data services will accelerate in years ahead. So just establishing success earlier on will just ensure longer-term growth. So next, mobility as a service growth. So IBI, like I described earlier, has a lot of transportation system, tracking, and data products and services. So I think this is definitely one of the longer-term catalysts that IBI needs to focus on. And like I said before, climate change and moving to electric vehicles, self-driving vehicles. We can see with the political momentum with the Biden administration and how they are focusing on moving to cleaner energy. For example, with the infrastructure bill, it is essential that companies like IBI focus with leveraging projects like that and expand to new technology within existing clients. So recommendation. So strategy drives competitive advantage, fundamental drives synergy, and all cross-sell of digital and technology solutions. So my overall recommendation would be a strong buy, overweight portfolio, and expand any current positions. So with all the data showing an early strategic jump and positioning on technology and digital solutions, I think it's very important to just, as long as they continue to focus on reoccurring revenue and more of a SaaS model, which will drive higher multiples, I think IBI would be a great company to invest in. And given the market, the competitive lead in implementing now recognized trends and strategies, as well as the strong geographic advantages and team, I think it would be a great recommendation. And the numbers and trends are all very good. Although the ratios are not always the most favorable, I think with the progress they're making, they will be there quickly. So here's just an overall, like these were two of their biggest competitors, and I also showed some of their ratios before. Here are just my appendix slides. I'm not going to fully go over them, but I think they provide some information. I mean, you can see here the ownership structure and the significant upturn of revenue. You can see some insider trading, and this was just them taking a profit kind of due to the favorable quarter that just occurred. And you can see here strategically geographically located offices. It lets IBI handpick their talent due to their international presence. And thank you so much for listening. I appreciate any feedback you can give me.